I love it at these type of meetings. Everybody's talking about strategy and you're listening. But what you really want is one thing. What is that? Oh, no. Come on. Show me the money, because you know it's going to take money to get this. In fact, I'm going to give you the first blank, and we may not hit another blank the whole time. You'll be able to find these notes online, but the first blank is most church planners don't know how to raise money. That's a challenge. I mean, when we started 5 years ago, you go after everybody. You go after friends, you go after relatives, you go after people who owe you money, you go after people you have dirt on.
Yeah.
All these things you're looking for. Oh, you think I'm serious? You talk to everybody, and there's one thing you know, a church planner, they're asking all the time for money. If you can't ask for money, the vision's not deep enough in you, okay? And you'll never be able to start a church. Well, you'll always be underfunded because money is a challenge. Steve, you've been going for a few years at your church. How often do you talk about money there?
Yeah, I've started to say it's not only when you're planning a church or you are the chief fundraiser, but it continues. If you don't like to raise money, don't start, because you're going to have to do that the rest of your ministry. And it's amazing to me. Two things amaze me, Hal. One is the number of guys who can go for an entire year and not preach on money.
Yeah.
And we all know the stats. There's more said about stewardship in the Bible than both heaven and hell combined. There's a reason for that. The Bible says wherever a man's treasure is, there his heart is also. And if you're not teaching on money in your church, you're in big trouble. The other thing and this is an easy thing to fall into, the number of ministers that I talk to who say this, they make this comment, how they said, I don't know what anybody in my church gives. And if the Bible says that wherever a man's treasure is, there his heart is also, you better, as the pastor of that church, you better know where your people's hearts are. And I wouldn't ask anybody to lead a ministry. I wouldn't ask anybody to lead a small group. I wouldn't ask anybody to be on my board. I certainly wouldn't ask anybody to be on my staff if I didn't know that they weren't robbing God. And so you better know that stuff. And here's how people say that. They say it because they say, well, I want to treat everybody the same. That's not the issue. You already know who the rich people are in your church. You can see that by the cars they drive. You don't have to look at their giving record, and their giving record may not tell you who the rich people are in church. If you've got a problem with that, that's a separate issue. But you need to know if your people are being good stewards, and that's going to be a telltale sign of the health of your church. So all that to say, if you don't like to ask people for money, then you don't need to be going in the ministry, because that's a part of it, is resourcing the vision.
Yeah, if you can't do it, we've met good people like that. I've met guys who say, well, I don't preach on money, and then they ask me for money. I go, dude, go catch some fish. Jesus told him, catch in the mouth of the fish is the money. So don't ask me for money. Go to your church and find it. Well, I don't want people to think I'm all about money. Okay, don't eat. I'm good with that. Listen here, you've got to find a way. But here's the thing I've discovered. The deeper the vision is in my heart, the more bold I can talk about money. And by the way, you ought to be the top giver. Well, I go percentage, whatever you want to be. But you lead the way there. And I found this. When I start giving more, Steve, I don't mind talking more about it. And the thing I found, we were at Flamingo Road Church in South Florida. And here's one thing we did. Early on, the word was we didn't check giving. Huge mistake, because people stop giving, and about 6 months later, they leave your church. So we discovered if we had watched that, maybe we could help them because their heart's left already. So when you're starting, you're going to be pitching. You're going to be asking grandmas for money. I've had people say, well, I don't ask my family. Don't start a church. It's tough. You've got to raise money. In fact, it'll put the metal in you that it takes to get it done every week. I promise you, money's tough.
Yeah, and let's talk about one of the things that you want to do is you want to give people opportunities at different levels. We just talked to some church planners who have trying to get this wonderful prize that the conference is giving, $20,000 to start a church, and they've done a really good job of asking for different kinds of money. They've asked people for one-time gifts. Somebody who, there are some people that you're going to be asking for money. They do not want to give monthly support. They do not want to give $100 a month. They want to give you a one-time gift. And so you want to give them that opportunity, say, here's a one-time gift. There are other people who are going to want to give a designated gift for a particular item. A lot of you are going to be doing portable church, or a lot of you guys, somebody's going to be willing to pay for your rent for the first 6 months. Give a list of things that you need in the start of that church, and the person who's drawn to the designated gift is going to be drawn to that. There are 5 pockets of money that are out there.
Time out. This is not in the notes. Write it down. Even if you're not writing it down, fake it like you are. It'll make us think you're really smart.
All right. There are folks who will give to the general budget in your church. And I'm sharing this because it also helps you raise money for your church plant from outside sources, from partners. There are people who give to the general budget. Most of these folks are folks who are born in the builder generation. They're rule keepers. They give, and they don't have to know where it goes, and they're going to give it just to pay for the light bill, the liability insurance. They're just those kind of folks. Then second group of folks are folks who will give to a building fund. And these are people who will give the building fund who won't give the general fund. They are brick and mortar people. They're visual people. They want to see something go up out of the ground because they gave to it. There's a third group of people, and those are people who will give to missions. And you talk to them about inner city mission, national missions, foreign missions, whatever it is, they're going to give to that. And then there are others who are going to give to compassion. And just out of their giftedness, they're going to be drawn to those things. And then there's number 5 is designated gifts, and that's what I was talking about. Now, there are some people who give all 5 pockets, all 5. But there's some who will only give out of one pocket. And while you're trying to plant a church, you want to go to folks and you want to give an opportunity for the person who's going to do ongoing support. That's the general person. And they're willing to write you a check every month, whether it's $100 a month or it's $1,000 a month, and they're willing to do that just regular. But there are some other folks who fall into this other category of designated giving, and you're going to have to tell them what their money is buying. It's buying a 12-passenger van. It's buying the portable church. It's paying for the youth minister's salary the first year, whatever it is. Give them those options. Whenever we take up this offering at our church, what we do is we send out once a quarter, we send a list of about 20 things that were not included in the budget, or if somebody paid for them, they wouldn't have to be in next year's budget. And we go everywhere from $50 up to $50,000 on that list. You can buy a brand new Bible for a new Christian that we give out, a leather-bound study Bible that we give every new Christian that joins our church, and you can make sure you can buy one of those, you can buy 10 of them. You just
so every quarter, this is once you're sending out the giving, hey, thanks, here's what God's doing, and then you add that in there.
Yeah.
They're giving record.
It's a financial newsletter. In that financial newsletter, we'll put stuff like the fact that we're audited, how we're doing on our budget in the general sense.
How many people trusted Christ,
you
baptisms.
Tell them stories of people and everything else. And then the last thing that's on there is a list of things that we're not going to be able to afford this year, or we could leave out of the budget next year if somebody would take it. So here you got a guy who works in the IT, and he understands the value of IT, and he's got 2 kids in the youth ministry, and he notices that you need $800 a piece for 2 laptops. And a guy who would never write you a check for $1,600 for the general fund and could care less about your building and doesn't have a compassionate heart, drop of blood in him, will write you a check for $1,600.
That's good.
And it says, I will buy those 2 computers. Why in the world would you leave that money on the table? And when you're looking at partners to start your church, you've got folks who fall into these categories as well. And you want to have something on there that speaks to the guy who is just the regular, non-sexy, just pay it out every month. But you also want to appeal to the person who likes the designated giving.
When we were launching, Steve led our partner team. We'll talk about that. By the way, Steve's off the grid on that right now. He's already leading a couple of them, so don't come up and say, Steve, would you be my lead partner? Because he's broke. He's doing several churches. But, sorry, Steve.
Thank you.
They won't listen to you much anymore when you're broke.